All right, so we're diving into Chris Butler and his Science of Identity Foundation,
Okay.
which it looks like actually goes by a different name in some places.
Yeah, that's right. Czaitania mission.
Czaitania mission.
Okay.
In like the Philippines and Poland.
Right.
And we've got like a lot of different sources this time.
We do.
It's pretty interesting. You've got court documents, news articles,
Even social media posts.
even social media posts. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so our mission is to explore all these allegations around Butler
Okay.
about manipulation,
Yeah.
double standards, hypocrisy,
Sounds good.
all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Where should we even begin?
Well, I think the core of this whole thing is this contradiction with Butler.
Okay.
You know, he's a Sannyasi Paramahmasa,
Okay.
which is like a high-ranking monk
Right.
who's supposed to renounce all worldly possessions.
Yeah.
But he transitioned into a businessman.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So a monk who's supposed to be like detached from material things
Right.
is now running businesses and making money.
Yeah. And that's where things get a little sticky.
That doesn't seem to add up.
No, it doesn't.
What are the sources saying about this?
A lot of former members are saying that he used his position for personal gain
Oh, wow.
and exploited his followers. And this is where we get this idea of double doctrine.
Okay.
There's one set of rules for the leaders and a totally different set of rules for the regular members.
That classic cult tactic.
Exactly.
So what kind of double standards are we talking about here?
So there are claims that devotees were expected to work for free in his businesses
Wow.
under this guise of service to God.
Okay.
Some of these businesses were even owned by Patrick Bowler,
Oh.
who's Paramahmasa Das,
Okay.
and he was a convicted drug dealer.
Hold on. So you're telling me the devotees were expected to work for free
Yeah,
for someone with a criminal record
potentially.
while he was profiting off of their labor?
It seems that way.
That's a pretty serious accusation.
Right.
And-
And it gets even more interesting. There are reports of Butler getting massages from female devotees.
Oh, geez.
Including Alan Tibby's daughter,
Okay.
who's Acharya Das.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, he's preaching against unmarried people being alone with the opposite sex.
The hypocrisy is kind of astounding.
Yeah.
Like one rule for him and another for everyone else.
Totally.
Is there any evidence to support these claims, or is it just like people talking?
There are firsthand accounts from former members,
Okay.
and there's even some documentation,
Okay.
including this policy book.
A policy book.
Yeah, that outlines the rules for serving Butler.
Oh, wow.
It includes details like no laughing or smiling while serving him.
Hold on. I need to process this for a second.
Yeah.
A rule book
Yeah.
for serving him
Uh-huh.
and no smiling while he's skiing.
Especially during his ski trips.
It sounds so bizarre,
It's weird.
yet disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a very strange combination.
Yeah. I mean, these types of regulations can be a way to control people.
Right. Yeah.
Like, even in those mundane aspects of life,
Yeah.
it reinforces that authority.
Okay. Well, speaking of control,
Yeah.
let's talk about the financial side of Seth.
Okay.
The sources mention some like shady dealings, right?
Yeah, so there are accusations of financial impropriety within SIF.
Okay.
And Alan Tibby, who is Acharya Das,
Mm-hmm.
seems to be like a central figure in all of this.
Okay.
He was allegedly really involved with QNet,
Yeah.
which is this multi-level marketing company
Yeah.
that's been accused of being a pyramid scheme.
Okay. So we've got allegations of exploitation within SIF
Yeah,
and now a potential pyramid scheme connection.
right.
This is getting more complex.
Yeah, it is.
What exactly was Tibby's role in QNet?
He held like a really prominent position in the company.
Okay.
And there are some allegations against him, including money laundering and conspiracy charges.
So not only are there like questionable practices within SIF,
Yeah.
but their leadership is potentially connected to a company that is accused of taking advantage of people. That raises serious questions about SIF
It really does.
and their ethics
Absolutely.
and how they handle money.
For sure.
This is particularly interesting when we consider the political connections of SIF,
Yeah.
especially with Tulsi Gabbard.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
All right, let's take a quick pause here and come back to the political side of this story in part 2.
Sounds good. So Tulsi Gabbard's connection to SIF has definitely raised some eyebrows, especially with her political career.
Right.
Some people are even accusing her of being like a political puppet.
Okay, so back up for a second.
Yeah.
Who is Tulsi Gabbard and what is her connection to SIF?
So Tulsi Gabbard is a former U.S. Congresswoman and presidential candidate,
Okay.
and she was actually raised in SIF.
Oh, well.
Her family has deep ties to the organization.
So someone raised in this organization with all these alleged problems reached a high level of political office.
Yeah.
That's a bit concerning.
It is.
What are the sources saying about Sif's involvement in politics?
Well, some people are saying that Sif used politics for financial gain and to increase their influence.
Okay.
Her father, Mike Gabbard, who is Krishna Karthadas in Sif, held political office in Hawaii. And there are claims that Sif was actively supporting his campaigns.
That's a bit of a red flag for me.
Yeah.
If Sif is pushing its members to support certain political candidates, are they doing it for genuine political reasons?
Yeah.
Or to gain power and influence?
Exactly. It's hard to tell.
Are there any other examples of this kind of thing?
Well, the sources point to people like Joseph Bismark, who held a high position in QAnon.
Right, the multi-level marketing company.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he identifies as a student of Butler.
So it's all starting to feel connected.
It really is.
Like a big tangled web.
Yeah.
We have this potential pyramid scheme connected to Butler's close associate, who is also connected to a prominent political figure, whose daughter was raised in Sif and had a successful political career.
It's a lot.
It makes you wonder.
For sure.
It's hard to ignore the possibility of influence.
It really is.
Right.
But it is important to say that Gabbard denies any undue influence from Sif.
Right.
However, her stance on certain issues like same-sex marriage seem to align with Butler's teachings, which some have called homophobic.
Right.
And then later on, she reversed her position.
Interesting.
Which made people even more suspicious.
Right. So we have to be careful not to jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
It's totally possible that Gabbard's political views evolved independently of Sif.
Right.
But the timing of these shifts in her views, combined with everything else we've learned, definitely raises some questions about Sif's involvement in her career.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complex.
There are no easy answers.
For sure.
But it shows how religious organizations can have a lot of political power.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what are personal beliefs and what could be external influence.
Like, definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Let's shift our focus back to the individual level.
Okay.
Why is it so hard for former members to speak out against Sif?
Well, the sources talk about a culture of silence.
Right.
There's this concept called offensive actions. Where any criticism of Butler or Sif is seen as a serious sin.
So you're saying that questioning the leader or raising concerns is a sin?
That's what they say, yeah.
That's a good way to silence dissent.
Yeah, it's really effective.
Keep people in line.
Right.
I guess that's why it's so hard to get information about what's really going on inside.
Exactly.
What are the consequences of the people who do speak out?
Former members report facing ostracization.
Wow.
And even threats.
Yeah.
They're labeled as enemies of God.
Oh, gee.
And their families are pressured to cut them off.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
It's like they're punished
for speaking the truth.
Exactly.
So sad.
It's really hard to hear about this culture of silence.
Yeah.
Protects the organization from scrutiny.
Right.
And it allows harmful practices to continue.
This has been a real eye-opener.
I know.
We've uncovered so many layers of complexity, from the financial stuff to the political maneuvering, and then this culture of silence. I feel a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
I understand.
What are we supposed to make of all of this?
Well, it makes sense to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway is that manipulation and exploitation can happen anywhere.
Wow.
Even in places that seem spiritual or good.
Right. It's easy to think, I would never fall for that.
I know. It can be hard to see when you're in it.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it's not about being gullible or weak-minded?
No, not at all.
It's about wanting to connect. Yeah.
And find our place in the world.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, those are like basic human needs.
Okay, so then once you're in that environment, the group starts to control your life more and more.
Exactly. And the sources mention Butler dictating career paths.
Really?
For his followers.
Wow. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, a lot of them ended up in modeling and acting.
Modeling and acting?
Yeah.
Is that just a coincidence?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
But it makes you wonder if he was trying to make himself look better.
Right. Use them to enhance his image.
Possibly. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for leaders
who
want to control every part of their followers' lives.
Okay, so what are some red flags?
So one of the biggest ones is isolation.
Okay.
Does the group discourage relationships outside of the group?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like SIF with the offensive actions.
Right.
Okay. Another one is a sudden change in your beliefs.
Okay.
Like it's natural for our views to change. But if it happens really suddenly,
right.
especially if it matches the group's ideology exactly,
yeah,
that's a warning sign.
So it's like losing your own thinking.
Right.
And just adopting the group's beliefs.
Exactly. Unquestioning devotion to the leader is a big one.
Okay.
Do they discourage critical thinking or questioning their authority?
Right.
Do they claim to have special knowledge or a direct line to God?
Okay, so it's about trusting your gut.
Yeah, if something feels wrong, even if you don't know why,
right.
It's good to take a step back
yeah.
and look at the situation.
This deep dive has been really enlightening.
It has been.
But also disturbing.
Yeah.
We've gone from double standards and hypocrisy to financial schemes and political stuff.
Yeah.
All in this spiritual organization.
It's a lot.
It shows that manipulation can take many forms.
Right, and we always have to be careful.
What stands out to you the most?
For me, it's critical thinking and healthy skepticism.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to question authority. Yeah.
And challenge beliefs. And look for different perspectives.
Yeah.
True spiritual growth shouldn't mean giving up your freedom or critical thinking.
Well said. Thanks. So as we end part 2,
okay.
I'm wondering,
yeah,
how can we protect ourselves from manipulation?
That's a great question.
Not just in spiritual groups,
right,
but in life in general.
Yeah, let's explore that in part 3.
Okay, so we've seen this pattern of manipulation and control in SIF.
Yeah.
It's easy to think, I would never fall for that.
Right.
But I bet it's not so obvious.
No, not at all. When you're in it.
Manipulation happens gradually.
Okay.
It's subtle.
Right.
And these groups are really good at using our needs against us.
Like, what do you mean?
Our needs for belonging and purpose and meaning.
Right.
You know, they create this environment that feels safe and supportive,
right,
even spiritual.
Yeah.
Which is really appealing.
Yeah, especially if you're feeling lost or searching for answers.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's not about being gullible. It's about wanting connection and meaning in life.
Okay, so once a person is drawn in,
then
the group can start taking more control over their lives.
In what way?
Well, the sources mention Butler dictating career paths for his followers.
Oh, really? Like how?
A lot of them ended up in modeling and acting.
Modeling and acting?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for those specific fields?
It makes you wonder if he was steering them towards things that would make him look good.
Oh, interesting. Like using them.
Yeah.
To enhance his image or visibility.
Possibly.
Okay, so what can we look out for?
One big red flag is isolation.
Okay.
Does the group discourage you from having relationships outside the group?
Yeah, that sounds like what we saw with SIF.
Yeah.
And their offensive actions.
Right.
Okay, what else?
Another warning sign is a huge shift in beliefs or values.
Okay.
Like, our views can change naturally over time. But if it's sudden and drastic...
And matches the group's ideology exactly.
Right.
It's a problem.
So you lose your own thinking.
Right.
And just adopt the group's beliefs.
Yeah, okay.
And, of course, a huge red flag is blind devotion to the leader.
Okay.
Do they discourage critical thinking?
Right.
Or questioning their authority?
Like we talked about with SIF.
Exactly.
Okay,
Do they say they have special knowledge or a direct connection to God? So basically, trust your gut.
Yeah, if something feels off.
Even if you don't know why.
Right.
Take a step back.
And examine it.
Yeah, this has been really enlightening.
It has.
And also kind of disturbing.
I know.
We went from double standards and hypocrisy to finances and politics.
It's a lot.
And all within this spiritual organization.
Right. It shows manipulation can look like anything.
And we always have to be careful.
Absolutely.
What's the one thing you hope people take away from all this?
For me, it's critical thinking and healthy skepticism.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to question. Challenge beliefs. Look for different perspectives. Spiritual growth shouldn't mean giving up your freedom or your ability to think for yourself.
That's a good point.
Thanks.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
we'll
leave you with this. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we know about manipulation and the warning signs, the better we can protect ourselves.
Exactly.
And those we care about.
Absolutely.
So keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Keep learning. Keep searching.
And keep seeking truth.
And remember, you're not alone.
Yes.
There's help out there.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course.
It's been a tough but important conversation.
Definitely.
Until next time, stay curious.
Yes.
And stay empowered.